In the following dramatization, notice how a couple who are studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses, armed with this appreciation that the angels are backing their work, are motivated to begin preaching.
What are we doing?
Good. So that's the end of lesson 22. Take a look at this week's goal.
Think of one person with whom you could share the good news. Think about what to say, how to say it, and when to say it.
Isn't that technically 3 goals?
You'll do great.
Let's close with a prayer.
Well, Jocelyn wants me to do this meditation seminar. You guys are into that, right?
Well, we were.
But I'm like, I can't deal with that right now. With everything happening in the world, inflation is killing my business. I just have bigger problems to think about.
But what's bigger than inner peace?
Making payroll.
Your brother is a Neanderthal.
Look, it's not my fault the world's a mess. What do you guys think?
So, what did you say?
We totally froze.
It's a big step to share what you've learned.
It's just for us. Our spirituality's always been, personal.
We've never liked the idea of pushing our beliefs on others. I know we're not pushing, but
We used to feel the same way.
I didn't think I could ever preach. I didn't even like the word preach.
how did you get over it?
Well, the more we studied, the more we came to realize that when Jesus said, "Go and make disciples," he was talking to us. It's the work that Jesus gave each one of us personally.
Sometimes it feels like it's too much for us.
Well, it is too much for just us. But do you remember what Jesus promised next?
I am with you.
Exactly. And he knew that sometimes it would be hard. But we have some very powerful help. Here's some homework. Take a look at Revelation chapter 14 and verse 6.
And I saw another angel flying amid heaven, and he had everlasting good news to declare to those who dwell on the earth. Notice this neat point in the research guide. It says that God's angels do not preach directly to people.
I'm so glad Blake got us to do this homework. I didn't realize mid-heaven means overhead. Help is so close.
Yeah. They're right there with us.
Jesus taught us to pray to beg the Master for more harvest workers. If that was true in the first century, how much more true is it now during our time at the end of this harvest period? So what a privilege each of us have to be one of those workers that Jesus taught us to pray for. And we can accomplish that work with eagerness if we meditate upon the fact that it's our personal responsibility to preach, and always remember that lives are at stake, ours and those of the ones we preach to as well.
Always remember that lives are at stake, ours and those of the ones that we preach to. So there's the doomsday message. They just can't help but reverting to, we're watching a symposium with the theme Eager to Declare the Good News. This particular part of the symposium, not the work of apostles only, and we've just been watching on our screens Paul Castellani. Paul Castellani has just shown a video that is part of a recurring series throughout this symposium featuring two characters, Aidan and Ellie, who go from being dreaded worldly people to studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses and being, you could say, model students, in other words, very, very gullible. And as we're going to see in the series, or as you will see if you watch the series, they make very, very swift progress. We're going to revisit in this rebuttal one of the later videos in this series so that you'll see how they become model Jehovah's Witness preachers. But what a cringeworthy series, and again entirely lacking in self-awareness. What's the message you're getting if you've never been a witness? I think it's really interesting to examine the portrayal of worldly people versus Jehovah's Witnesses. Aidan is portrayed as having piercings, and these piercings, as we're going to see, magically vanish when he becomes a witness. Ellie is shown when she encounters the witnesses at the carts with a yoga mat, or when she walks past the witnesses at the cart. They're both shown doing volunteer work, so apparently volunteer work isn't something you should really be doing. And if you think about it, isn't that in line, perfectly on message when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses and the way they put all of their emphasis on the preaching work, the life or death preaching work? How can you have time for volunteer work to save doomed worldly people when you should be out warning them? And even meditation we saw there is something that's frowned upon. Of course, Jehovah's Witnesses do something that they call meditation, but it has nothing to do with breathing exercises and finding inner peace. It's just basically analyzing the Bible and Jehovah's Witness literature and just going over and over the text and trying to find meaning and something that they can apply to their own lives. That's the Jehovah's Witness version of meditation. So really, really useful, I think, to compare the Jehovah's Witness portrayal of worldly people and just see exactly what it is that you're supposed to get rid of if you are into any of these things, such as yoga or volunteering. You'll also have seen there Ellie and Aidan have a problem with pushing their beliefs. Quite rightly, I think we can all relate to that. It's just not something you should really be doing in polite conversation. Oh, I have these personal religious beliefs, you should have them too. Again, it makes sense in the context of a group where they believe lives are at stake. But for everybody that doesn't have this doomsday mindset, this mindset of everyone who's not in my religion is going to die, it's just not polite, is it, to push beliefs? So I find myself relating more, or way more, to these characters before they become, quite frankly, cult drones. I find it funny, and this is just a personal observation, Ellie is shown, and you'll see this in each of the installments of this series, Ellie is shown sketching almost everything that she's learning. Every time there's some lesson, some profound Bible truth, rather than simply writing it down, she gets a sketchbook out and she draws it. I find that quite funny and a little bit patronizing, almost suggesting that women are at an intellectual level where they can only draw, they can't write things. Maybe it's just me, maybe I'm being hypercritical, but that's kind of the message I got from that. And you also see this message about the angel flying in mid-heaven. We're going to see a rather cringeworthy portrayal of this as this series unfolds.